Thanks for sticking with us. So November, if you didn't know, marks the 9th month of the Russia-Ukraine war. It also means that Democrats and the Biden regime have now, for over a year actually, because the money started going before that, continued to send billions upon billions of our taxpayer dollars to what many left-wing media back in 2014 called the most corrupt country on the planet, Ukraine. Just for clarity there. Unfortunately, our money isn't the only thing that Biden's been sending over there. Now we've decided to send some troops, but hold on, I'll get to that. But a whole lot more military equipment and firepower. Which, oh, by the way, did I mention that a lot of it's been falling into the wrong hands? That's right. It's being sold on the black market. So now, the Biden administration just announced this week it has sent an undisclosed number of U.S. military personnel to Ukraine. The personnel's sole purpose is to inspect American-supplied weapons being used in that country. One of the main roles is for these weapons inspectors to try and determine how much of our U.S. supply has already fallen into the wrong hands. Great, so glad you're on top of it. 9 months later, Joe. What a joke. Why would he care? Look what he did in Afghanistan. Now, there's been no mention of how many troops have been sent or will still be sent over there, which is leading a lot of people in this country, of course, to start saying that Biden has broken his pledge, which he made a while back, of course, not to send any U.S. troops on the ground there. But do you really think you can hold Joe to his word? The guy can't string two sentences together. He doesn't remember what day of the week it is. He thinks we have 54 states. He said that, by the way, earlier this week. Anyway, what bothers me, and it should upset the hell out of you, is when will this end? When will we stop sending money to Ukraine? And now that we do have some boots on the ground, we can pretty much guarantee that we're escalating the war over there. I'm sure Russia doesn't appreciate that we have boots on the ground. But for more insight on what's happening with these weapons inspectors and how long this war can just be drug out by the Biden regime, we're joined now by the former advisor to the Secretary of Defense under President Trump, Colonel Doug Macgregor. Colonel, first let's start with the inspectors. We've known, because I'm pretty sure I had you on this program, we should have went and pulled the clip to show it and remind our viewers that we did say this, but I recall months and months ago, like springtime, you coming on, and we were talking about our weapons falling into the wrong hands. We're now just sending inspectors to figure this out. How much stuff have we spent and sent over there that's probably in Iran or China or God knows where now?
Well, Dan, that's an important question that we can't answer with any degree of accuracy, but we figure that probably 40% of whatever we've sent has disappeared into the so-called black market for arms. But there's something larger and more important happening here, and it's important that Americans pay attention. And look, it's difficult. Given inflation, open borders, the rise in criminality, Americans are justifiably concerned about those things as they go into this midterm election. But we need to look at what's happening with this so-called 200 or 300 troops under a brigadier general going into Ukraine. Suddenly, as you point out, after 8 months and over $65 billion lost on this Ukrainian fiasco, we are allegedly sending soldiers and officers to track accountability for weapons. Now, if that doesn't sound a bit bizarre at this stage of the game, then someone ought to step back and understand that this may be a cover for something else that's far more important. Remember, we talked about this idea floated by retired four-star Petraeus about a multinational force, a so-called coalition of the willing, of forces from nations that support our intervention in the Ukraine war on the ground, because it's not all of NATO, obviously. Well, this looks a lot like what we call an advance party, a group of people who are going in to look at where those forces might go, how they could set up, where they could be sustained, fueled, have power, and so forth. I'm frankly not buying the argument on accountability, because at this stage, why would we care any more than we did 8 months ago? So I think we're looking at something that's incrementally similar to what we saw with Obama in Iraq and then subsequently Syria. Well, I'm sending 200 men back to Iraq, but they're only there for a limited period to do assistance training and equipping and so forth. And then it became 400. Then it became 500. Then it was 2,000. I think this is an incremental move into Ukraine. And what worries me is all of the training going on in Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, to prepare foreign forces along with air forces to actually intervene in Ukraine. And we have American general officers talking openly, like the commander of the 101st, that his mission is a combat mission, not to protect NATO's eastern border, but a quote-unquote combat mission, which
really
implies a fight with the Russians.